You are listening to the Get Global Network podcast of The Wave Live, featuring an interview with the comedian Jasmine Ellis. You can hear The Wave live Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific Time on Yessurr FM, one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network. K. Rose, and you are listening to the Wave Live interview with Jasmine Ellis. Jasmine is a comedian that I ran across as I go through on Facebook, on YouTube. I always check out artists, of course, because of Yessurr FM and So Metro Radio. Always trying to find artists that have not been exposed to international fans. And I also look at comedians because I need a break at times. I'm a big fan of some of the older comedians because I am myself an older person. So I'm a big fan of the Red Fox universe, and I even look at a little Flip Wilson, and I love the female comics from the day, i.e. Moms Mabley. I even think Joan Rivers was funny in her time, in her own way. And so when I ran across Jasmine, I looked at a couple of the videos. I thought that she was funny, and I don't laugh at everything. And so anytime you can make me chuckle or laugh, I'm going to reach out to you and see if we can find out what makes you tick, what makes you be you. And so tonight we are interviewing Jasmine Ellis. And Jasmine, are you originally from Texas?
Yes, I am. I was born and raised, born in Fort Worth. I live in like the DFW area now, but my family's originally from Louisiana. My mom's from Lafayette. My dad's from Thibodaux. So I'm a first generation Texan with very strong Louisiana roots. My whole family is still in Louisiana. And
so did you were born and raised here, but do you go back to Louisiana and visit often?
Mm-hmm. All the time. Every Christmas, almost every Thanksgiving, every time there's a wedding, a funeral, unfortunately. Anytime I can, I go spend time with my family in Louisiana.
And what does your family think about your career as a comedian? Is it something that they think, hey, you should have been doing that, you've always been funny, or what do they think about you as a comedian?
You know, it's funny. I think I have the same experience that a lot of comedians do, where your whole life everyone's, oh my gosh, Jasmine's funny. Jasmine's a comedian. And then I actually start doing it and they go, oh, you're serious about this? Because it's to the point, I'm not famous. I'm not international yet. I'm not selling out stadiums. So I don't have, a full-time career with comedy. At the same time, it's taking up so much of my time and I'm doing enough with it that it doesn't make sense to have a full-time job. So now they're looking at me like, so what you going to do with that degree you got, huh? No, you just not going to use it? You going to tell jokes? Like they're a little kids, just because your family always wants what's best for you and they want me to eat and be able to live comfortably, and stand-up is an unconventional career. So they were a little iffy about it at first, but then when they started coming to my shows, they really just got really supportive. My little sister, who's younger than me and her are incredibly close, so she's always just not knowing what's going on with me. So she was just right away you should do it. That'd be great. My older sister, she's a little bit more prim and proper. She has a very traditional job. So she was a little concerned about me doing stand-up. I've had to make compromises early on. But just for example, I was asked to do a show that was a benefit for weed legalization. And I personally don't smoke. I don't care for it, not my thing. But I think everybody should have the right to. I think our government is wasting way too much money imprisoning people over marijuana when it actually can cure diseases. It seems very silly to me. So I was like, sure, I'll do the show, and the sister was like, you better not, So it was kind of a conflict. So I had to, put my family first. But for the most part, they're supportive because they know the person I am, and I live my life with integrity. I'm proud of the decisions I make, and I'm totally okay talking about my life on stage.
And so there are subjects that you feel that you will not approach or that you will not add into a routine because you just don't feel that's something that you want to say on stage, or it's a subject that you don't want to actually engage in? How do you decide what topics are okay?
Whatever the topics that are okay are the topics I think of. Of course, there's different settings and different kind of rooms. I just performed at a church benefit in front of like 300 women. This is a Christian church, so I did not talk about how I lost my virginity, or you know what I'm saying. You
Right.
just choose what's the appropriate situation, and that's the kind of thing. But there's really, I don't know. I really can't think of anything that I haven't talked about on stage, unless it's just not funny. That's the funny thing is, unfunny people surround me. I am so surrounded, and God bless them. The world needs normal people. But, like, every day I encounter someone and they find out I'm a comedian, they're like, ooh, tell a joke about me. I'm like, you don't do anything interesting. So the one thing that doesn't go on stage is anything that I don't think is really unique or interesting. Like, I hate to do tacky topics that everyone else is talking about.
Well, and as I looked at a few of the videos that are out there, I looked also at some videos that where you were interviewing different people. I saw several of those. Now, were you actually working as a personality and doing interviews before you decided to do comedy?
Yes. I got a bachelor's of arts degree at Midwestern State University. I got my degree in mass communication and broadcasting. So, yes, when I was 21, I decided I wanted to be an entertainment journalist, and that was my big ambition, and I started interviewing different celebrities, and that led to me interviewing comedians, but I always had the desire to do stand-up, always. I just didn't really push forward and start doing stand-up until about 2014 when I was 24. So, I mean, I'm still relatively young, so it's like I'm making a lot of decisions as I go. But yeah, I started doing entertainment journalism first and then chose to do stand-up second. And it's been going great, actually. The funny thing is, when I was trying to find jobs as an entertainment journalist, and I was saying, yeah, I'm a good interviewer, book me as an interviewer, people were just like, oh, that's cute, whatever. And I feel like now people are seeking me out to do their TV shows and to do their radio shows because I'm a comedian. And they want that something different, you know? There's a lot of people with broadcasting degrees, but not many of them are hard-working comedians who can write jokes and communicate funny. So I'm proud of that. I'm enjoying it.
Well, that's a good way to actually start doing something that I believe you mentioned that it's possible that you had actually wanted to be a comedian. So when did you, or what's your first recollection of being in front of family members or in front of an audience and actually performing? It may not have been comedy, but just what's that first recollection of being in front of an audience and getting that juice from being there and that vibe and that energy boost that you get sometimes when you're in front of an audience?
Oh, wow. My first recollection of being in front of the audience, I was 5 years old in my kindergarten graduation play, and I was performing. I was very, very, very early. Like, as long as I could talk, I've been, like, the thing that my parents would always say is, like, my parents' friends would come up to them and be like, she is too much, or she is something else. So I always had a lot to say. Like, my mom teases me about this and says that if I ever have kids, they're probably going to be really ill-behaved. Because, like, I would come up to people and just be like, you got gray hair. Are you a grandma? And just say the most unnecessary things. Like, I've always been a ham and had a lot of personality. So, I mean, I guess I could trace it back to being like 4 or 5 years old and performing in school plays and then doing theater in after-school programs and summer programs and doing musical theater when I got to high school, doing sketch plays in college, then hosting the events on campus, getting a radio show while I was in college, interviewing people on websites, and then just being like, you know what the common thread in all of this is? You know what I love about this? I love to make people laugh. And comedy is so freeing because all I need is a stage and an audience. I don't have to have this medium or this whole machine behind me or these sponsors or anyone telling me what to say. I just get on stage and I say what I want to say. Of course, I put a lot of thought into it, and it works. So I guess as early as I can remember, I've been performing.
And I've looked at, again, I mentioned to you that I've looked at a few of your videos, and I've noticed that there is one of the jokes I noticed about children that you have as basically, in a nutshell, it's not something that may be on your agenda soon. Now, are you a big, or let me ask you this way, do you plan to have children after you kind of get your career established, or do you kind of look at children as like, kids?
You know what's funny is I joke about it like, I would never have kids. I know exactly the bit you're talking about, and I'm like not wanting to give away my stand-up, but I have this joke where I say I would rather have children. I would rather have herpes than children.
Yes, I do remember part of that, yes. And
what I mean by that is, like, at this stage of my life, I think I could handle a prescription more than I could handle a child. Like, and that's just a personal kind of, like, rant about it. I do think I want to be a mother. However, I'm very comfortable with being an old mom. Like, I don't have this desire to be that cute, hot mom with who's like 22 with a kid. Like, I'm probably not going to have a child until I'm in my late 30s. I'm 27 now, and I've just kind of accepted that. I'm really comfortable with that because for me, I don't want to be one of those mothers who has to pause their career to accomplish things and then, of course, resents their children or tries to push their children to accomplish the things they never accomplished. I don't think I would be my best self as a mother if I don't get where I want to get in my career. And unfortunately, it's just the way it is. I don't think I can do that with kids right now. So, hopefully, God willing, I can have kids in my later 30s, but I definitely want to get my career going. I want, like, in the next year, I plan on touring colleges. Hopefully from there, television opportunities happen. Like, I want to be a household name. I have every ambition in making it happen.
Where can people go to connect with you online, to find you on social media?
Oh, okay, great. You can find me on social media. My website is www.thejasmine-ellis.com. That's TheJasmine-ellis.com. My email for booking information is jasmine-ellis-comedy@gmail. And follow me on Twitter, please. It's Jasmine C. Ellis. The C is my middle name, but we can say it stands for comedy. So on Twitter at Jasmine C. Ellis, and on Instagram at TheJasmine-Ellis. I'm working on getting the Periscope and all the other ones, Snapchat. Gosh, there's so much social media. I feel like there's just no reason to engage with people that much. But please follow me on Twitter. Check me out. I also have a Facebook, facebook.com/JasmineEllisComedy. So please follow me along. You can find out dates on my upcoming shows. If you're in the DFW area, please make it out to that time of the month. It is every first Friday or Saturday, depends, at Drugstore Cowboy in Deep Ellum. I'm hosting the next one May 7th. It's called One Mother of a Show, and it's got Anastasia the Bulls headlining. It's got Carrie Denise. She was the winner of Colorado's Funniest Person. Big deal. But we've got Katie Evans. She's performing at the Dallas Comedy Festival and open for Michael Che. And, of course, myself. We got Jal Judah. We've got chicks coming in from Virginia, people from East Texas. It's going to be fantastic. And it's the first weekend of the month usually, and it's all female lineup. It's called That Time of the Month. You guys should check that show out.
Okay. And I'm definitely going to make sure that we are promoting you as much as we can on our social media. I'll make sure that I connect with you shortly after that show if I'm not able to make it, so that we can make sure we're always promoting what you do from this point forward. And as you go through, you mentioned how hard that you plan to work in this industry and you want to become a household name. When are you going to feel like you have arrived, or what's your idea of success in the entertainment business?
That's a good question, because what I'm noticing is the more I meet comedians I admire and aspire to be like, the more I realize that, like, it's a little bit like being a hamster on a wheel. like you just keep going and going because you're not really going. I'm not saying you're not going anywhere, but you're right. Like, when am I going to feel like I've arrived? The answer is I don't know. Because, like, a year ago, I said, all I want is to perform at the Improv. Got it. Did it like 4 times. All I want is to open a weekend at Hyenas. Got it. Did it. All I want is to headline. Done it. All I want is to feature. You know, like, I'm reaching these goals and then creating new ones. I guess, oh my gosh, like, big picture, like, in my 40s and, like, later in life, I see myself on a television show. Like, one of the people I really admire, as far as television, more so hosting than acting, I absolutely admire Aisha Tyler. She's hilarious. You got to listen to her special. She hasn't done it in a long time, but her podcast is awesome. I'd love to be like Aisha and just have this creative freedom in my career where I can do voiceover and cartoons and have a podcast and have a talk show. So I guess I'll feel like I've arrived when I have complete control over how I make money.
And that's fair.
That's what I would say. Like, when I have complete control over my career, when I can say yes or no to a show, then I feel like I've arrived.
And I'm a big fan of Aisha, and I was looking at some things on the internet about her and just her personal life here recently. Just some changes that she has. I've listened to her podcast. I probably have listened to at least half of them because I don't have as much time as I used to. But what other female comedians, or male comedians for that matter, what other female or male comedians do you not necessarily pattern your comedy after, but that you look at to say, hey, that's somebody that's actually funny?
Wow, I love stand-up. I love comedy. So I've got a lot of people I really enjoy. Wyatt Cenac is absolutely hilarious. I'm probably saying his last name wrong. Marina Franklin, super, super funny. I saw Kyle Kinane last time he was in DFW and just was so in amazement. And the funny thing is, before I started stand-up, the only times I had watched stand-up had been to just, I got invited to the show, I'll go see it. Or, there's a comedian at my college. So where a lot of people, like, grew up watching a lot of stand-up on TV, I almost did the reverse. Where first I experienced stand-up live and then just got really, like, I'm going to watch this and I'm going to watch that. And, like I went, like, everybody in the 2000s, I went through that phase where I was obsessed with Kevin Hart. I love Kevin Hart. I was obsessed with Cat Williams. Now I'm just like, Cat Williams is funny, but it's definitely a different formula of comedy than what I go for. I try actually not to watch too much comedy because I don't want to be influenced by anyone. I want to have my own unique voice and sound like myself. But I will say my all-time favorite comedian is Wanda Sykes. And no, not male, female. She's my favorite female, my favorite black. No, she's just my favorite. She is so funny and she's so hard. And like 50% of the jokes that you love from Chris Rock were written by her. And people don't give her just due. And if there's like ever a comedy Mount Rushmore, she needs to be on it. I love her. I also love Dave Chappelle. I've seen him every time I could in Dallas. Who else? There's also DFW comedians I really admire and really enjoy their performances. Aaron Ariapur is someone I probably am saying his last name wrong. Someone who's just like stage presence I absolutely love. Linda Stogner, who runs Backyard Comedy. She just has this just this infectious personality on stage. And then of course like all of the ladies that I've worked with on the That Time of the Month show have been just phenomenal people to work with. But as far as like the big names, it's Wanda Sykes. She's like my Mother Mary of comedy, I look to her. But we have completely different styles. So that kind of sums it up, I guess.
And she really is. I mean, she really, really is. The people that are in the background of this business of entertainment, they know how powerful she is as far as being a writer and as far as being some of the brain trust of the comedy that is out there. And she's been on some great television shows herself. And she's been behind the scenes writing for people, as you mentioned, like Chris Rock. Are you considering a career, or are you thinking about writing for other comedians?
I'm willing to, if the money, right? That's just like, it's one of those things that happen. I'd love to, but I think I've got I've got the presence and the personality to be out in the forefront too. But oh yeah, I would not turn down an opportunity to write for other people. And I'm getting interested in sketch writing and story writing. It takes a lot. I am such an audible and visual communicator, and like I gotta learn just like the structure of script writing and the formatting and just which there to use. Like I'm when it comes to writing, I'm very just whatever. I'll just put it all down. Like if you were to look at my notebook, you'd be like, where are your jokes on this? Because everything's just bullet points and scribbles. But I understand it, so it's a little hard for me to communicate my thoughts in words. But I would love to write if given an opportunity and I could just buckle down and focus and do it. Yeah.
And as I mentioned, just listening to some of the things that you've done, are there subjects like flatulence and things of that nature that's just a normal part of your personality, where you're talking, doing fart jokes and things like that, or are those things that you just kind of thought up to go into the routine?
Oh, everything I say is just part of my life. Like most of the time, what I say on stage came from an actual conversation I had with a friend, and then it's just, how you have a conversation with someone and then you think of all these things you would have said later. I pretty much always say what I want to say, whatever, which can make me a kind of over the top person to be around. But it's pretty much like that with like a hint of exaggeration, But I'm very much like what I'm saying isn't me just putting something on to have this other personality on stage. But no, which is a little weird because most comedians I've met, even like the real big ones, are very introverted. And on stage, you get this idea that they are this big, bold personality. And I mean, they're the kind of person who just panics when you say hi to them. And that's not really how I am. Like in my life outside of stand-up, I worked in sales for a really long time. And you have to be outgoing. I think I'm very much like what I write is what comes through on stage.
Okay, and so and that's really just a natural way of basically putting your performances together, I think. And when it comes to relationships, and how does having a relationship and being in entertainment connect, or how do you keep those balanced? And do you find yourself using any of those personal things in your comedy?
Oh, okay, that's a good question. I always kind of run things. Well, I'm a Spreaker. I was going to say two completely different things. All right, like if we used to talk, if we used to be friends, if we used to date, sorry, you're fair game, and I can talk about you all I want. I actually just had a status about this the other day. I was like, I've dated guys with really common first names. So, to the point, I've dated 3 different guys named Chris. So, the Chris's don't know which one I'm talking about unless they're the guilty Chris, In my current relationship, because I do talk a little bit about my relationship on stage, just because I'm in a racial relationship, which is, it generates a lot of buzz. It's a topic people are talking about. I do talk a little bit about our relationship, but I try to have some balance, a little bit of secrecy. I try not to. I definitely would never want to embarrass him. But he doesn't embarrass easily, and he comes to a lot of my stuff, so he sees what's going on. With my family, that's another story. They are so sensitive. My mom will just be like, "Don't tell people that. I never beat you." I'm like, "Mama, you beat me. Come on."
And see, family is
brag about funny. How you beat me. Calm down.
Family is funny that way. It's funny when we're sitting around and we're talking about things. It's hilarious, actually, when we're sitting in the family. But if you mention something to someone outside the family, it's just a little bit different, I think. And
exactly.
That to me seems a difficult thing. Again, as a comedian, it seems like to me you're walking a fine line when it comes to the family. And and I'm sure there are, so I'm not even going to say, are there things you wouldn't say? But do you find yourself, when there's a memory that it irritated you about a family member, do you ever put any of that into your comedy, and you don't mind that they know that you did it?
I'm so sorry. Say that one more time. I'm just a little confused.
No, if basically, are there, there are times when you can look back at your life and you can remember something that somebody did, one of your siblings or your parents. Are there times when you have actually purposefully put that into your comedy, not to be revengeful or anything like that, but do you do that just to be funny or to, let them know that irritated you? Have you ever done that before as a comedian?
Oh, okay, like subliminal messages, like being like, oh yeah, don't think I forgot that. No, my objective with anything is I really just want to make people laugh. So I really go for anything that I think is really, really relatable. Whatever is really, really relatable is what's important to me. So, I go on this whole thing about being grateful for what you have, and to really bring that point home, I talk about how my parents grew up poor, and they like to remind me that I'm not poor, and stuff like that can be funny. So it's not the funny thing about comedy for me is it's such a cathartic, fun thing for me. I enjoy it. It's such a release. And I always want people to leave a situation feeling good. So I would never want to say anything that makes people feel sorry for me. I see so many comedians do this, where they get on stage and they say something that's just so dark and not even funny. And then the audience is just going, I don't like that. Unless you got to have a really strong joke after that for that. Nah, that's not usually the plan. The plan is always to uplift and make people laugh.
And as you look back at it, and which I agree with, you mentioned earlier here in the interview, there are some comedians that do have a dark, dark, dark side, and it's difficult for them to not have these moments where they just are really dumping their soul out and really being expressive about some real dark side of themselves. And you have such a happy demeanor, and your spirit is just so light and airy. When I was listening to some of your comedy, you dropped a couple of bombs, a little F word or something like that. And it's something where when I saw you initially, I was like, wow, okay, that's refreshing. She's really, really a millennial. She is just living her life, enjoying her life, doing her thing. And as you look at it as a female comedian, do you feel in a box at all? Do you feel that you're looked at differently, or that people don't think female comedians are funny and you got to prove something? How do you look at yourself as a female comedian, and how do you feel you're treated as a female comedian?
Those are good questions. Well, I feel like as a female comedian, a lot of people have this. A lot of people have this idea that it's temporary. They're very quick to decide on it for me. They're like, first of all, when I tell people I'm a comedian, they don't believe me. I was like, I'm going to an open mic. This guy's like, what kind of open mic? I said, stand up. He goes, spoken word, poetry. And I said, no, stand up comedy. He goes, you don't do comedy. People look me in my face and have told me I don't look like a comedian, or they can't imagine me doing comedy. It's just the first thing they say. And I've been told it's so funny. Everyone has an opinion on every time I get dressed and perform, someone tells me something about what I have on. It never fails. If I dress casual, they're like, you got to girl it up. You're a sexy girl. You're going to make people can say that. And then if I happen to wear a dress and they're like, ooh, you can't be too dressed up because the girls will hate you. And I hate when people say that, because they're really selling women short. Women love and support women. I think the biggest lie that men have perpetuated is that women hate each other and they're catty. And some women really believe this, and it makes them hate each other and be catty. If you meet the same kind of can I cuss on this show or no?
Oh, you can say what you want to.
All right. So you got your basic bitch who is so concerned with what men think and what men like and what tantalizes men that she can't have relationships with other women. And that's the kind of girl who comes to a comedy show and would feel threatened by a female comedian. That's the kind of, and that's such a small margin of people. I refuse to believe that I can perform in front of 300 people And that one girl's going to sit there and go, that comedian was trying to make my boyfriend laugh and take him from me. Like, bitch, I got other priorities. You see what I'm saying? Like, but that girl doesn't exist. But people will tell you she does to make you feel stifled as a woman. Now, I've been making some choices as a comic that I know are not, like, the ideal form of female comedian. Like, one of the first things they tell you is, you know, don't do all-female comedy shows. They tell you not to be on them because then you're marginalized and you're only hanging out with the girls and that kind of thing. And I've chosen to do an all-female comedy show once a month and call it that time of the month. Like, I have a show for women named after our period.
Yeah, and I knew that. And that's why I thought it was great.
What'd you say?
I thought it was great.
Thank you. But you see what I'm saying? It's a very bold move, and I'm proud of it, and I like it. And I just don't feel like men are missing out on opportunities. Like, I feel like there's just so many. I mean, how many times do you see a comedy show with a completely male lineup? Like, I was laughing my butt off. You wouldn't believe how many guys are putting on all-men comedy shows for Mother's Day. Like, are you serious? Like, for Mother's Day. And a lot of times it's the most misogynistic guys who will just be like, man, you ever seen a single mother? I hate single mothers. And literally everyone, like, they're so conditioned. Like, I'm all over the place with this answer to this question, by the way. But someone asked me, you asked me if people think that women are less funny than men. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a cultural perception that women are less funny. Absolutely. And I think it actually can work to my advantage because I get on stage and people don't expect me to be funny. And they're refreshed by it, which is a shame and it's sexist, but screw them. I keep winning. And then one thing I've noticed, too, is I truly believe that if you meet a female comedian and she's like, most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, you meet a female comedian and she's like a feature. And then you meet a male comedian and he's like a feature. And you watch them. That girl is usually funnier. Because what I realize is our whole society, men go their entire lives with people politely laughing at them.
True.
Even when a guy isn't funny, everybody laughs to make them feel good so they don't feel stupid. Nobody ever laughs at a woman when she's not really funny. Like, that's just, so women don't walk around with this false sense of entitlement that they're funny. When a girl decides that she's funny, it's because she's really funny. Like, people have been telling me to do stand-up since I was like 12 years old. I didn't start till I was 24. Like, I made an educated decision. Like, all you gotta do is tell a guy he's funny once, and he'll, like, sell his band and, like, start his whole life over and drop out of college to be a comedian because a pretty girl laughed at him. Like, and you see it. Go to an open mic, and you'll watch. Like, the first-time girl comes up there with this thick notebook, and she's, like, thought through her jokes. And your first-time guy, he invites all his coworkers and, like, repeats jokes he saw on Saturday Night Live. Like, I'm literally telling the truth right now. I've seen this happen. I really think we need to start discouraging men. I feel like the best thing we can do for society is to, like, socially abuse men a little bit. Like, just a little bit.
Well, and men have these things that they grow up with, and you grow up as a man and you're in a group of men and boys and you're always looking to be the one that outdoes the other, whether it's through athletics or, as you mentioned, just making everyone laugh or being the hit of the party or whatever. And men have this mistaken, and you are absolutely correct, they have this mistaken thought that they are the best at, and then you can put whatever you want to after the at part of it. And it's just not fair. I think that what you are saying is absolutely true. I could probably say that the majority of, and it's not even a numbers game to me. I haven't been to 1,000 comedy shows like I'm sure you probably have. But I could honestly say that most of the shows that I have seen that have had women as any part of the show, I have honestly laughed more at the young lady or at the woman than I have over those, umpteen men that I've seen. And I do think you're right. I think men have this sense of comedic entitlement is what we'll call it, where they think that even if they tell a fart joke, that every fart joke they have is funny. And I just think that women, in my opinion, I come from a family with several sisters. I think that you have more of a honest look at life. Women do. And with that being said, as you mentioned, you've got shows where it's all female shows. One of the last questions I wanted to ask you is, what's been your most memorable performance? What's been the one where you came off and you were like, I just killed this. I just had them just eating out of my hand. And it may not have been that feeling, but what's been your most memorable show?
Oh, wow. Wow, there's a lot. Show can be memorable and good and bad. Wow, that's a really good question. I think the shows that I remember the most that have like made the biggest impact on me are the ones where I had a challenge and I wasn't sure it was going to go as well as it did. The first time I did a college, that was interesting because let me clarify, I have never had a drinking problem. But when you first start doing stand-up, everyone's drinking. It's just every time you go up, you're at a bar, they're drinking. It's just the norm. And so when I performed at a college, I actually opened for Paul Varghese, who has opened for Dave Chappelle. So that means I'm like 1 degree of separation away from Dave Chappelle.
If you want to call it that, okay, I'll go with you.
I'm clinging to that. But when I opened for Paul at a college, we were performing at the college. It's like not even nighttime yet. It's a group of kids. None of them are drinking, and the lights are all the way up. So everything I was doing was very critical, and I got laughs. I got consistent laughs, and I love Paul to death. He is an awesome guy. He can be a little surly because he's been around for a while, and he's seen people join this and quit this, and so he's not impressed with people when they first start. And this is one of the very few compliments he's given me in like this. I knew him before I even started stand up. But this is one of the very few compliments he gave me. He goes, how do you feel about that? And I said, I feel really good. And he goes, you should feel good. And that's a lot coming from him because this guy's performed everywhere. He's been on Comedy Central. He's worked with a lot of great guys. So when he said, you should feel good about that, I was like, yeah, I did something out of the ordinary. I don't need a drink to relax me. I don't need the safety net of being in the dark or doing it with drunk people or not. I had only been doing comedy for like 8 months at that time.
Wow.
And then, so it was a big thing. And I did 20 minutes, which is a long time. My very first show, I did 10, and that was a long time for a very first time beginner. And then actually, I guess my second, I think I'm going to remember this for a long time, was performing at that church this past Friday, just because I had been doing a lot of these little corporate gigs, and they were only I was opening for someone else. I was only doing 15 minutes, and I had never headlined and done an hour clean before. So, I'm working out what I'm going to say and going through my material and taking out the F word, the this word, the that word, the sex part. And, I can write a funny sex joke. I firmly believe in my funny sex jokes. But I got really good laughter from a group of women, and I, was able to work around that obstacle. So really it's the moments where I challenge myself, where I see that, I guess it's like realizing you don't need a crutch,
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily need the crutch of cussing. I don't necessarily need the crutch of alcohol. I'm learning, and I'm just realizing, I just love doing stand-up so much. I really don't care about the circumstances. If I get to get on a stage, that's all I want,
But that's great. And it basically is showing that you're evolving as an artist, you're evolving as an entertainer, which is the most important part of this, I think. And I want to make sure as we end the interview, I'd like you to, again, tell everyone how to connect with you and tell them about the shows that you have coming up next.
Okay. Well, you can connect with me on social media. Of course, find my website, The Jasmine Ellis, that's TheJasmineEllis.com. And then you can also find me on Instagram at The Jasmine Ellis, on Twitter, Jasmine C. Ellis. That's a C as in cat, and or as in comedy. And that's all the social media I do right now. Be looking out for a Snapchat because my friends are forcing me to do that. And my next show will be at Drugstore Cowboy, May 7th, which is Drugstore Cowboy is a really awesome coffee bar in Deep Ellum. It is a free show, free to get in. We just ask that you tip the comedians, and it's an all-ladies show where I'll be hosting with some really great people like Anastasia the Bold and Carrie Denise and Katie Evans and Francesca Lynn. So I'm super excited. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on with us again, everyone. You have been listening to the Wave Live interview with Jasmine Ellis. You have been listening to the Get Global Network podcast of The Wave Live, featuring an interview with the comedian Jasmine Ellis. You can hear The Wave Live Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Pacific Time on Yessurr FM, one of the original member stations of the Get Global Network. You can hear Yessurr FM and the other member stations of the Get Global Network on the go by installing any of the Get Global Network apps, like So Metro Magazine, Grassroots Salute, Agtown Nation, or Big Red Radio Nation for your cell phone. The apps are available for download on both Google Play and the iTunes App Store. Take the time to subscribe to our podcast via iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, or the Spreaker Podcast Network.